It was getting dark when Maya Carter stepped off the bus near the corner of Elm Street. She had just finished another long day at school, her backpack heavy with books and notebooks. Her feet dragged slightly as she walked home, the cool breeze brushing against her face. It wasn't far, just a few blocks, but tonight felt different somehow. Maybe it was the way the streetlights flickered above her, or how the usual hum of traffic seemed quieter than normal. Whatever it was, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. She adjusted her backpack straps and kept walking, humming softly under her breath. Maya liked to sing when she was nervous, even if no one could hear her. Her voice was soft but steady, filling the empty spaces around her. As she turned onto Maple Avenue, she noticed a figure up ahead. It was hard to make out at first because of the shadows cast by the buildings, but soon she realized it was a police officer standing near a parked car. He looked tall, much taller than anyone else on the block, and he wore the familiar navy blue uniform with shiny black boots. Maya slowed down without realizing it. Cops weren't uncommon in this part of town, especially after dark, but seeing one always made her feel uneasy. She didn't know why exactly. It wasn't like she'd ever done anything wrong. Still, there was something about the way they stood so stiffly, their hands resting on their belts, ready to grab whatever tool they needed at a moment's notice. Maya tried not to stare as she passed him, keeping her eyes fixed on the ground. But then it happened. Just as she thought she was safely past him, her foot caught on an uneven crack in the pavement. She stumbled forward, barely managing to catch herself before falling flat on her face. Her backpack slid sideways, hitting her hip with a dull thud. Embarrassed, Maya straightened up quickly, muttering, "Sorry," even though no one had been in her way. That's when she heard the voice. "Hey, hold on a second," called the officer. His tone was sharp, commanding. Maya froze mid-step, her heart pounding in her chest. Slowly, she turned around to see him striding toward her, his boots clicking loudly against the concrete. "What's your name?" he asked once he reached her. Up close, he looked even bigger than she'd imagined, his shoulders broad and his jaw set firmly. Maya swallowed hard, clutching the straps of her backpack tighter. "Maya," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "My name is Maya." The officer nodded, jotting something down on a small notepad he pulled from his pocket. "And where are you headed?" "Home," Maya replied, pointing vaguely down the street. "I live 2 blocks away." He squinted at her, studying her face like he was searching for something. "You sure about that? Because we've had reports of kids stealing stuff around here lately. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" "No," Maya said quickly, shaking her head. "I'm just going home, I swear." For a moment, the officer didn't respond. He flipped through his notes, then glanced back at her. "All right," he said finally, "but let me check your bag real quick, just to be safe." Maya's stomach sank. She knew she hadn't done anything wrong, but being stopped like this felt unfair. Why did he think she was involved in stealing? She opened her mouth to protest but stopped herself. Arguing probably wouldn't help. Instead, she reluctantly shrugged off her backpack and handed it over. The officer unzipped the main compartment and rifled through its contents. Textbooks, pens, a water bottle, all perfectly ordinary items. Satisfied, he zipped it back up and handed it back to her. But instead of letting her go, he grabbed her arm, pulling her closer. "Wait," he said gruffly. "What's this?" Before Maya could react, he reached down and lifted the hem of her skirt slightly, peering underneath as if expecting to find something hidden there. Maya gasped, jerking backward instinctively. "Stop it," she cried, tears welling up in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm just doing my job," the officer snapped, his grip tightening on her arm. "Now stand still." Maya wanted to scream, to run away, but she was too scared to move. Her mind raced, trying to figure out what to do next. This wasn't right, none of it was right. And yet here she was, powerless to stop it. Just as things seemed like they couldn't get any worse, another voice cut through the tension. "Greg, what are you doing?" Startled, both Maya and the officer turned to see a second cop approaching them. This one was shorter, with curly brown hair and kinder eyes. She wore the same uniform as the man but carried herself differently, more relaxed yet alert. Lisa. The man, Greg, said, sounding annoyed. I'm handling this. Go deal with your own business. Lisa ignored him, focusing instead on Maya. Her gaze softened as recognition dawned on her face. Wait a minute, aren't you Mayor Carter's daughter? Maya blinked, caught off guard by the question. Yes, she admitted hesitantly. I am. Lisa's expression shifted instantly, her features tightening with anger. She shot Greg, a look that could have melted steel. Do you have any idea who this girl is or what you've just done? Greg's grip loosened as confusion washed over him. What are you talking about? This is Maya Carter, Lisa said firmly. As in, the mayor's youngest daughter. If word gets out about this... She trailed off, shaking her head. You're in serious trouble, Greg. For the first time since the encounter began, Greg looked genuinely shaken. He released Maya's arm, taking a step back as if suddenly, aware of how badly he'd messed up. Maya stood there trembling, unsure of what to say or do next. Everything had escalated so quickly, leaving her overwhelmed and exhausted. Lisa stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on Maya's shoulder. Are you okay? She asked gently. Do you want me to call your mom? Maya shook her head, wiping away a stray tear. No, she whispered. I just want to go home. Lisa nodded, understanding. All right, let's get you there. She turned to Greg, her tone icy. We'll talk about this later. For now, stay out of sight. As Lisa escorted Maya down the street, the weight of what had just happened began to settle in. Neither of them spoke, the silence heavy with unspoken thoughts and emotions. Maya couldn't believe how quickly everything had spiraled out of control. 1 minute she was just a kid heading home from school, and the next, she was at the center of something far bigger than herself. When they finally reached Maya's house, Lisa paused outside the gate. Listen, she said, crouching down to meet Maya's eye level. I'm really sorry about what happened. No one should have to go through that. Not you, not anyone. Maya nodded, forcing a weak smile. Thank you, she murmured. For stopping him. You don't have to thank me, Lisa replied. It's my job to protect people, all people, and I promise you we're going to fix this. With that, Lisa stood up and gave Maya a small wave before heading back toward her patrol car. Maya watched her go, feeling a mix of relief and lingering fear. She didn't know what would come next, but one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. By the time Maya got home that night, the whole house was buzzing with activity. Her mom, Angela Carter, had already heard about what happened. Word traveled fast when you were the mayor of a major city, especially when your youngest daughter was involved. Angela paced back and forth in her living room, phone pressed to her ear, speaking sharply into it. Yes, I want a full report on this immediately, she said before hanging up. Maya hesitated at the doorway, unsure if she should interrupt. She'd never seen her mom so angry before. Sure, Angela could be strict sometimes, especially when Maya forgot to do her chores or stayed out too late. But this was different. This wasn't just frustration. It was fury mixed with worry. When Angela finally noticed her daughter standing there, her expression softened slightly. Come here, baby, she said, motioning for Maya to sit down. Maya obeyed, sinking into the couch as Angela sat beside her. Tell me everything. So Maya did. She recounted every detail, from bumping into Officer Greg Harris to the moment Lisa Bennett stepped in and recognized her. As she spoke, Angela listened intently, nodding occasionally but mostly keeping her emotions in check. It wasn't until Maya mentioned how Greg had lifted her skirt that Angela's hands clenched into fists. That man crossed a line, Angela muttered under her breath. A big one. The next morning, the incident dominated news headlines across the city. Social media exploded with outrage. Hashtags like Justice for Maya trending everywhere. People shared videos and photos taken by witnesses who had been nearby during the confrontation. Some praised Lisa for stepping in, while others demanded severe consequences for Greg. Protesters gathered outside City Hall, holding signs that read, "Protect our kids," And no more police brutality. Inside the building, tensions ran high. Angela called an emergency meeting with top officials from the police department, including Chief Monroe, a balding man in his 50s, known for his calm demeanor. He arrived looking tired, dark circles under his eyes hinting at sleepless nights. Sitting across from Angela, he sighed deeply. "Mayor Carter, I assure you we're taking this seriously," he began. "Officer Harris has been suspended pending investigation." Angela leaned forward, her voice firm. "That's not enough. I need answers and accountability. What kind of training are your officers receiving? How does something like this even happen?" Chief Monroe shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "We've implemented new protocols over the past year, but change takes time. Not everyone adjusts easily." "It shouldn't take time," Angela shot back. "This isn't rocket science. Treat people with respect. Don't violate their rights. That's basic human decency." Meanwhile, Greg faced mounting pressure both professionally and personally. Suspended without pay, he spent most of his days cooped up in his small apartment, replaying the events in his mind. Had he really made such a grave mistake? At first, he convinced himself he'd only been doing his job, that it was better to err on the side of caution than risk letting a criminal slip away. But the more he thought about it, the harder it became to ignore the truth. He'd acted out of fear and prejudice, not logic. Lisa visited him once, hoping to offer some guidance. "You messed up, Greg," she said bluntly when he opened the door. "But you can still make things right." "How?" he asked bitterly. "Everyone hates me now." "No, they don't," Lisa replied. "They're mad because they feel betrayed, because they trusted us to protect them, and instead, someone abused that trust. You can start fixing it by admitting what went wrong and committing to change." Greg didn't respond right away. He stared at the floor, guilt weighing heavily on him. Finally, he nodded. "Okay, what do I need to do?" As the days passed, Maya struggled to adjust to life in the spotlight. Reporters camped outside her school, eager to get a statement from her. Classmates whispered behind her back, some offering sympathy, others casting suspicious glances. Even teachers treated her differently, tiptoeing around her as though she might break at any moment. Her best friend, Jamal, tried his best to keep her spirits up. "Ignore them," he told her during lunch one day. "They don't know what you're going through. Just focus on yourself." "I'm trying," Maya admitted. "But it's hard. Everywhere I go, people are talking about me." Jamal frowned. "Yeah, well, maybe that's not such a bad thing. Think about it. If people are paying attention, maybe they'll actually listen when you speak. You could use this to make a difference." Maya considered his words carefully. She hadn't thought about it that way before. Could she turn this painful experience into something positive? Maybe, but the idea felt overwhelming. Back at City Hall, Angela prepared for a press conference scheduled for later that afternoon. Dozens of journalists packed into the auditorium, cameras flashing as she walked onto the stage. Dressed in a crisp white blouse and black slacks, she exuded authority yet remained approachable. Taking a deep breath, she addressed the crowd. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "I stand before you today not just as your mayor, but as a mother whose child was subjected to an act of injustice. My daughter, Maya, deserves better. Not just from law enforcement, but from all of us. We must hold ourselves accountable and ensure that no child ever feels unsafe in our streets again." Her speech continued, outlining plans for comprehensive police reform, increased community outreach programs, and mandatory sensitivity training for officers. By the end, applause filled the room, though Angela knew words alone wouldn't solve the problem. Real change required action and patience. That evening, Maya joined her mom in the kitchen, watching as Angela poured herself a cup of tea. "How did it go?" Maya asked tentatively. "It went well," Angela replied. "But there's still so much work to do." Maya nodded, chewing her lip nervously. After a pause, she spoke up. "Mom, I don't want anyone to lose their job over this." Angela raised an eyebrow, surprised by her daughter's comment. "Why not?" "Because punishing one person won't fix everything," Maya explained. If we want things to change, we have to teach people how to be better, not just punish them for being wrong. Angela smiled faintly, pride swelling in her chest. Despite everything, Maya had managed to find compassion amid chaos. "You're wise beyond your years, sweetheart," she said softly. "Let's see what happens next." And so, the wheels of justice began turning slowly but surely. While the road ahead promised challenges, one thing was certain. Maya's courage had sparked a conversation that couldn't be ignored. The meeting took place in Mayor Angela Carter's private office late one evening. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the air conditioning and the distant sounds of traffic outside. Angela sat at the head of the table, her posture rigid, her eyes scanning the three people seated before her. To her left was Officer Greg Harris, his shoulders slumped as if carrying the weight of the world. Beside him was Lisa Bennett, who maintained a composed demeanor despite the tension in the air. And across from them sat Maya, her small frame dwarfed by the oversized chair she occupied. Angela cleared her throat, breaking the silence. "I called you all here tonight because we need to talk about what happened, and more importantly, how we move forward." Greg shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He had expected anger, accusations, maybe even shouting. But Angela's tone wasn't harsh or accusatory. It was measured, almost clinical. That somehow made it worse. He opened his mouth to speak, then closed it again, unsure where to begin. Lisa spoke first, leaning forward slightly. "Mayor Carter, I think it's important to acknowledge that mistakes were made. What Officer Harris did was wrong, and he knows that now." Greg nodded quickly, eager to agree. "Yes, ma'am," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I thought I was following protocol, but I see now that I wasn't thinking clearly." Maya glanced up at him, her dark eyes filled with uncertainty. She hadn't expected to feel sorry for him, but there was something genuine in his apology. Still, it didn't erase the memory of how scared she'd been that night. Angela studied Greg carefully, her gaze piercing. "Officer Harris, let me be clear. This isn't just about you. It's about trust. The trust people have in law enforcement, and the trust my daughter had in feeling safe on our streets. When actions like yours undermine that trust, it affects everyone." Greg swallowed hard, nodding again. "I understand, Mayor Carter. I truly do. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right." Lisa chimed in, her voice steady. "There are steps we can take to prevent this from happening again. Better training programs, stricter oversight, and more opportunities for officers to connect with the communities they serve. These aren't new ideas, but they're necessary ones." Angela considered this, tapping her pen lightly against the table. "And what about accountability? How do we ensure that officers who step out of line face consequences without alienating the rest of the force?" "It starts with leadership," Lisa replied. "If officers see their superiors holding themselves accountable, they'll follow suit. Transparency is key." As the conversation continued, Maya found herself growing bolder. She leaned forward, slightly, her grip on her backpack loosening. "Mom," she said softly, interrupting the adults. All eyes turned to her, and she felt a flutter of nerves but pushed through anyway. "I don't want Officer Harris to lose his job." The room fell silent. Angela raised an eyebrow, surprised by her daughter's statement. "Why not, sweetheart?" Maya hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Because firing him won't fix anything. If we send him away, nothing changes. People will still be scared and cops will still make mistakes. But if he learns why what he did was wrong, and if others learn too, then maybe something good can come out of this." Greg stared at Maya, his chest tightening with emotion. He hadn't expected forgiveness, especially not from her. For the first time since the incident, he felt a glimmer of hope. Not for himself, but for the possibility of redemption. Lisa smiled faintly, nodding in agreement. "She's right. Accountability doesn't always mean punishment. Sometimes it means growth." Angela sighed, rubbing her temples. "All right," she said finally. "Here's what we'll do. Officer Harris, you'll undergo mandatory sensitivity training and community service. You'll also participate in workshops designed to improve relations between police officers and residents. If you complete these requirements successfully, your suspension will be lifted and you'll return to active duty under close supervision. Greg exhaled sharply, relief washing over him. Thank you, Mayor Carter. I won't let you down. Outside City Hall, protests continued to draw crowds. Among the demonstrators was Rachel Morales, a young journalist determined to uncover the truth behind the incident. Armed with a notepad and a camera, she interviewed bystanders, activists, and even some off-duty officers willing to speak anonymously. Her persistence paid off when she stumbled upon records of previous complaints filed against Greg, all dismissed without consequence. Rachel's article hit newsstands the following morning, reigniting public outrage. Headlined "A Pattern of Misconduct," it detailed how Greg's behavior fit into a larger systemic issue within the police department. Readers demanded answers, and soon Chief Monroe found himself facing calls for widespread reform. Back at the precinct, Lisa spearheaded efforts to address these concerns. She organized town hall meetings where citizens could voice their grievances directly to officers. At first, tensions ran high, with heated arguments breaking out between attendees. But over time, the dialogue began to shift. Residents shared personal stories of mistreatment, while officers listened, many admitting they hadn't realized the depth of the mistrust. One particularly emotional moment came when a young mother stood up and recounted how her teenage son had been stopped multiple times for no reason. Tears streamed down her face as she described the fear she felt every time he left the house. Several officers exchanged uneasy glances, realizing for the first time how their actions impacted real lives. Inspired by Lisa's initiatives, Greg threw himself into the work, volunteering extra hours at youth outreach programs. He spent afternoons mentoring troubled teens, helping them navigate challenges ranging from academic struggles to conflicts with authority figures. Though skeptical at first, the kids warmed up to him, seeing glimpses of vulnerability beneath his tough exterior. Meanwhile, Maya tried to return to some semblance of normalcy. School remained challenging, with classmates divided over whether she was a hero or simply caught up in drama. Jamal remained steadfast by her side, offering unwavering support whenever she needed it. "You're handling this better than most adults would," he told her one day during lunch. "Seriously, Maya, you're amazing." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "I don't feel amazing, I don't know. I guess I want to believe people can change." Jamal grinned. "Well, you're giving them a chance to prove it." As weeks turned into months, the city began to heal, though scars lingered. Angela announced sweeping reforms aimed at rebuilding trust between law enforcement and the community. Critics accused her of using the incident for political gain, but her sincerity shone through in interviews where she openly discussed her own fears as a parent. Greg, now working part-time at a youth center, found purpose in mentoring kids who reminded him of his younger self. He often thought about Maya, grateful for her compassion and determined to live up to the second chance she'd given him. Lisa earned a promotion to detective, becoming a role model for women in law enforcement. Her leadership inspired colleagues to embrace transparency and empathy, fostering a culture of accountability. For Maya, life slowly returned to its usual rhythm. She still carried the memories of that night, but they no longer weighed her down. Instead, she chose to focus on the lessons learned, that even in moments of darkness there is always room for growth, forgiveness, and transformation. The city moved forward, imperfect yet hopeful, united by a shared commitment to creating a better future. The trial began on a chilly morning in late fall. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as spectators filed in, eager to witness what many were calling the case that could change everything. Reporters jotted down notes furiously, their cameras flashing every time someone entered or exited the room. Outside, protesters held signs demanding justice, their chants echoing faintly through the building's thick walls. Inside, Maya sat between her mother, Angela Carter, and Jamal, who had insisted on being there for moral support. She felt nervous but determined. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever been treated unfairly because of their race, age, or appearance. As the judge called the court to order, Maya took a deep breath, reminding herself why she was here. Greg Harris, dressed in a plain suit instead of his uniform, sat at the defendant's table alongside his lawyer. His face was pale, his hands clasped tightly together. He glanced occasionally at Maya, guilt etched across his features. Lisa Bennett, now promoted to detective, sat in the front row, her presence a reminder of the changes already underway within the police department. The prosecution presented its case first, laying out evidence of Greg's misconduct. They highlighted not only the incident with Maya but also previous complaints against him, cases that had gone unpunished until now. Rachel Morales, the journalist who had uncovered these records, testified about the systemic issues plaguing law enforcement. Her words resonated deeply with those in attendance, drawing murmurs of agreement throughout the room. When it was time for Greg to testify, he spoke haltingly, his voice trembling as he admitted his mistakes. "I let my fear get the better of me," he said, addressing the judge directly. "I thought I was doing my job, but I realize now that I crossed a line. I hurt someone, an innocent child, and for that, I am truly sorry." His apology didn't satisfy everyone. Some spectators shook their heads in disbelief, whispering angrily among themselves. Others, however, noticed the sincerity in his tone and nodded slightly, acknowledging his effort to take responsibility. Finally, it was Maya's turn to take the stand. As she walked to the front of the room, the crowd fell silent. Even the reporters stopped typing, their eyes fixed on her small figure as she adjusted the microphone to her height. When she began to speak, her voice was soft but steady, carrying a weight far beyond her years. "I don't hate Officer Harris," she said, looking directly at Greg. "At first I did. I was scared and angry, and I wanted him to pay for what he did. But then I realized something. Punishing him wouldn't fix the real problem. What happened to me wasn't just about one person making a bad choice. It was about a system that lets things like this happen over and over again." She paused, glancing at her mom before continuing. "I believe people can change if they're given a chance. Officer Harris made a mistake, but he's also trying to make things right. If we focus only on punishing him, we miss the bigger picture. We need to work together to create a world where no one has to feel afraid because of who they are." Her words hung in the air, filling the courtroom with a profound sense of reflection. Many in the audience wiped away tears, moved by her courage and wisdom. Even the judge, a stern man known for his no-nonsense demeanor, seemed visibly affected. After hours of deliberation, the verdict was announced. Greg would not serve jail time, but would instead complete mandatory sensitivity training, community service, and regular check-ins with a counselor specializing in racial bias. Additionally, he would assist in developing new training programs for the police department, sharing his experiences to help prevent similar incidents in the future. The decision drew mixed reactions. Some felt it was too lenient, arguing that leniency undermined efforts toward accountability. Others praised the ruling as a step toward meaningful reform, emphasizing the importance of rehabilitation over punishment. Back at the precinct, Lisa continued leading initiatives aimed at bridging the gap between officers and residents. Inspired by Maya's testimony, she launched a mentorship program pairing cops with local youth. Officers spent weekends coaching sports teams, tutoring students, and participating in cultural events hosted by community leaders. These interactions fostered mutual understanding, breaking down barriers that had long divided them. Greg threw himself into the work, finding solace in connecting with kids who reminded him of Maya. One boy, Marcus, stood out in particular. Like Greg at that age, Marcus struggled with authority figures, often lashing out when frustrated. Over time, Greg helped him channel his energy into positive outlets, teaching him discipline and perseverance through basketball drills and strategy sessions. For Maya, life gradually returned to normal, or as close to normal as possible after such a public ordeal. School remained challenging, with classmates divided over whether she was brave or simply caught up in controversy. Jamal remained her rock, always ready with a joke or a kind word when she needed cheering up. "You know," he said one afternoon, as they walked home together, You've become kind of a role model. People look up to you. Maya laughed nervously, shaking her head. I'm just a kid. I didn't do anything special. Are you kidding? Jamal countered. You stood up in front of everyone and said exactly what needed to be said. That takes guts. Despite the lingering attention, Maya found joy in small moments. A quiet evening at home with her mom, laughing over old family photos, a surprise visit from Lisa, who brought her favorite cookies as a thank you gift, even the occasional letter from strangers thanking her for inspiring them to speak out against injustice. As winter approached, the city prepared for its annual holiday festival. This year, Mayor Carter decided to dedicate the event to unity and healing, inviting residents from all walks of life to celebrate together. Booths lined the streets, offering food, crafts, and performances representing diverse cultures. Officers mingled freely with attendees, handing out candy to children and posing for pictures alongside Santa Claus. Standing near the main stage, Maya watched as Greg joined Lisa and several other officers in leading a group of kids in a lively game of tag. For a moment, she allowed herself to smile, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in months. Change wouldn't happen overnight, but progress was undeniable. That night, as fireworks lit up the sky, Maya leaned against her mom, content, in the knowledge that she had played a part in sparking something greater than herself. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she wasn't alone. Together, they would keep moving forward, one step at a time. Months had passed since the trial, and life in the city continued to evolve. The scars of the incident still lingered, but they no longer dominated every conversation or overshadowed daily routines. For Maya Carter, things were finally beginning to feel normal again, or as close to normal as possible after being thrust into the spotlight. It was early summer when Maya received her high school diploma. Standing on stage in her cap and gown, she delivered a valedictorian speech that left the entire auditorium breathless. Her voice echoed through the room as she spoke about forgiveness, resilience, and the power of unity. We all make mistakes, she said, pausing to scan the sea of faces before her, but it's how we respond to those mistakes that defines us. I've learned that holding on to anger only hurts ourselves. Instead, we should focus on understanding each other better. That's where real change begins. The crowd erupted into applause, many wiping away tears. Jamal, sitting in the front row with a proud grin, gave her 2 thumbs up. Even Angela, seated beside him, couldn't hold back her emotions, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. After the ceremony, Maya posed for countless photos with family, friends, and teachers. As the excitement began to wind down, Lisa Bennett approached, her carrying a small wrapped gift. Congratulations, Maya, Lisa said warmly, handing over the present. You deserve every bit of this success. Maya smiled, unwrapping the gift to reveal a leather-bound journal embossed with her initials. Inside the cover, Lisa had written a heartfelt note. For all the stories you'll tell and the lives you'll touch, keep shining. Thank you so much, Maya said, hugging her tightly. I'll treasure it forever. As the weeks went by, preparations for college consumed most of Maya's time. She'd been accepted to a prestigious university several states away, an achievement that filled her with both excitement and nerves. Packing boxes piled up in her room, each filled with reminders of home, books, clothes, and trinkets collected over the years. On the morning of her departure, Maya stood at the bus stop, clutching her acceptance letter and glancing nervously at the schedule. The bus was due any minute now, and she knew there was no turning back. This was the start of a new chapter, a chance to leave behind the chaos of the past year and embrace whatever lay ahead. Her mom joined her at the stop, pulling her into a tight hug. You're going to do amazing things, sweetheart, Angela whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Just remember where you came from and who you are. I will, Mom, Maya promised, blinking back tears. And I'll call you every week, okay? Angela nodded, forcing a smile despite the lump in her throat. Every week. As the bus pulled up, Maya hoisted her suitcase aboard and settled into a window seat. Through the glass, she watched her mom grow smaller until the bus rounded a corner, leaving her neighborhood behind. It wasn't long before the cityscape gave way to open roads and rolling hills, signaling the start of her journey. Unbeknownst to Maya, someone else had come to see her off. Greg Harris stood quietly in the background, blending in with the crowd. He hadn't intended to come, he didn't want to intrude on such a personal moment. But something inside him, a mix of gratitude and admiration, had drawn him there. He watched as the bus disappeared into the distance, feeling a strange sense of closure. Maya's compassion had changed him in ways he never thought possible. Without her willingness to forgive, he doubted he'd have found the strength to rebuild his life. Now working part-time at the youth center and mentoring troubled teens, he felt like he was making amends, not just to Maya, but to everyone he'd wronged in the past. Back at the precinct, Lisa's efforts to improve community relations continued to bear fruit. Officers participated in workshops designed to foster empathy and cultural awareness, while residents attended forums to voice their concerns directly to law enforcement. Slowly but surely, trust began to rebuild. Rachel Morales, whose investigative work had exposed Greg's misconduct, published a follow-up article highlighting the positive changes taking place. Headlined, "From Crisis to Change," it detailed the reforms implemented under Mayor Carter's leadership and praised initiatives like Lisa's mentorship program. Readers responded with messages of hope, sharing their own experiences of healing and reconciliation. For Angela Carter, the past year had been a whirlwind of challenges and triumphs. While critics still accused her of using the incident for political gain, her sincerity resonated with voters during the next election cycle. Re-elected by a landslide, she vowed to continue championing policies aimed at creating a fairer, more inclusive society. Meanwhile, Greg found redemption in unexpected places. One evening, while coaching a basketball team at the youth center, he spotted Marcus practicing free throws alone. The boy's form had improved dramatically, thanks in part to Greg's guidance. "You're getting good," Greg remarked, walking over to join him. Marcus grinned, bouncing the ball confidently. "Thanks to you, coach." Greg chuckled, shaking his head. "Nah, kid, you did the hard work. I just pointed you in the right direction." As autumn arrived, bringing crisp air and golden leaves, Maya settled into her new routine at college. Classes challenged her intellectually, while extracurricular activities introduced her to diverse perspectives. Late-night conversations with dorm mates often turned philosophical, exploring topics like justice, privilege, and identity. One weekend, she received a package from home. Inside was a framed photo of her delivering her valedictorian speech, along with a handwritten letter from Jamal. "Hey, superstar," it read. "Hope you're crushing it out there. Just wanted to remind you how proud we all are of you. Keep changing the world one step at a time. Love, Jamal." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes as she reread the note. Despite the miles between them, she felt surrounded by love and support. These connections grounded her, reminding her why she'd chosen to speak out in the first place. By winter break, Maya returned home to find the city transformed. Holiday decorations adorned lampposts, and cheerful music played in shops. At the annual festival, she spotted Greg helping organize games for kids, laughing alongside Lisa and other officers. Their camaraderie warmed her heart, proof that even the deepest wounds could heal with time and effort. Standing on a bridge overlooking the river, Maya reflected on everything she'd been through. The fear, the anger, the courage, it had all shaped her into the person she was today. And though the road ahead would undoubtedly bring new challenges, she faced it with hope and determination. As fireworks lit up the night sky, Maya leaned against the railing, smiling softly. Life wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful in its imperfections. Together, they were moving forward, one step at a time.